for Tuesday, October 19, 2021 to order. Roll call, Mr. Miller.
Council President Paschal.
Here.
Caprillion. Here. Golden. Pinker. And Schmidt. We have a quorum.
All right. Item number 3 is approval of the minutes of the September 21st, 2021 meeting.
Move for approval.
Second. Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Pinker and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, see none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? See none, that motion carries. Item number 4 is citizen comments. Do we have any citizens who wish to comment? Neither of the citizens here are indicating they wish to comment, so we'll move on to item number 5. Review and recommendation for the general future location of statues at Wildwood Park in accordance with Wisconsin Statute 6223, paragraph 5, presented by Josh Miller.
Thank you. I'm just going to do a brief introduction, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mark Nelson, who's going to go over a presentation about the proposed project. This is a project that we've been working on for actually a couple of years, going back probably three years. And the idea was to have a sculpture park and walking through the Wildwood Park area, the forested area. And after some discussion, it kind of evolved into having a sculpture. And I think Mark will go into more detail as to why. But the person I was working with was Anne-Marie Nelson, who is Mark's niece. And she came up with this idea and wanted to have the sculpture park in the Wildwood Park. And she ended up moving away. And so the idea kind of was still there, but we didn't really pick it up until really heavily until late this spring, I think, or over winter. And this group kind of formulated a plan, and now they're ready to bring it forward to the public. And so it's really kind of, this is one of a number of stages, but really what they're looking for is to get approval for the general idea and the location, ultimately with the Common Council. Right now, this is part of the statutory requirements. So anytime a statue is placed in the city of public statute, the Plan Commission should weigh in on that. A review and consideration is what's required by state statute. So there is not a specific plan at this point. We're just looking the group is looking for a blessing on the location and concept. They would then go through a further design process, and it would come back at some point for further review and comment. But with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mark and take it away.
Welcome, Mark.
Everyone, I'm Mark Nelson. As Josh has said, I'm on mic. Hi, I'm Mark Nelson. And I thank you for having us here. I'm here at the invitation of Josh, who has been working with us, and we've got a couple other of our committee members, Lori Belangi and Charlie Ampe, here to share with you an exciting project idea. A group of us has been working on this for a couple of years. In addition to there are about half a dozen others in the group that have been involved. And as I present this project, you'll see why we're keeping it fairly low key for now. Today, we're really looking for your thoughts on the idea, whether it seems suitable for the city at this location. And if you like it and it's suitable, ultimately, we're going to need to get council's permission for us to proceed in good faith with generating a detailed plan at our own expense to go forward and present to the council. The project is an opportunity for the city of Marshfield, and it involves, let's see, what's my key? Okay, I guess I have to actually click that mouse. Involves Marshfield's most beloved artist, Clyde Winia, and his whimsical sculptures. We've been talking to Clyde to see if he'd be willing to let us build an outdoor sculpture park of his art in our city's Wildwood Park. A permanent home for Jurassic Park when that time comes. Over the years, Clyde has received offers to purchase his large-scale sculptures, but thankfully, he expressed to us a preference to keep his collection together and open to the public, if possible, in Marshfield. And after months of discussion, earlier this summer, he gave us the verbal okay that the ultimate destination for Jurassic Park could be bringing it to Wildwood. He said we could move ahead with our request to the city. So we're here as part of that process to gain permission to move the project ahead to the next step. And I'll tell you more in a moment. Please don't misunderstand. 2020 was Jurassic Park's busiest year ever, and 2021 looks to be the same. Right now, Clyde and his wife, Nancy, happily run the park. What our group is doing is looking toward the future. We're looking toward the future because we want to ensure the sculpture park of Clyde's art will be open to the public long after Clyde decides to lay down his welding tools. And we picked Wildwood because we felt that Marshfield's flagship park, shown in this map, with its 157 acres, would be the perfect location. It's close to other attractions like the zoo, the aquatic center. It's easy to get to, not far from downtown, well connected locally by bike trails, streets, and sidewalks, easy for out-of-town people to find. And it's a great place for an outing, as you all know, if you've experienced Wildwood Park. Here's the specific spot we picked in the park, shown here outlined in red, and I guess my cursor isn't showing, so that's fine. It's near Wildwood Station, which you can see kind of that purple thing up above the red outline. The lower pond is below it on the map. The aquatic center is over on the right side, and so it's kind of a nice place because it's where you'd kind of want it, but it's not impinging too much on any of the other areas. It's got all the parking and access and visibility that you might want. The site has some beautiful mature trees, which we would hope to largely retain. It's open enough to allow Clyde's creatures to get some sunlight, which helps them keep their distinct Iron Age color, as he likes to call it, something that Clyde says is important. If you get it out in the woods, which was the original concept, they turn black and they just don't have that same look. So part of the magic of these being Iron Age sculptures is that they look rusty, and it's part of the charm and all part of the story, the narration that Clyde tells. And of course, this location has parking. It's a great location near the lower pond that, when you think about it, will provide some outstanding long views of the sculptures from across the pond and the zoo and elsewhere. And we hope that you, like we, look at this site and find it pretty easy to imagine how wonderful this could be and what an asset it would be to have right here in Wildwood Park in our city. The project has plenty of positive aspects for Marshfield, and I've just taken time to list a few of them here on this slide. For instance, you've got local pride in Jurassic Park. How many of us, when we have out-of-town guests and we're trying to think of something to do to entertain them here, we say, let's go up to Jurassic Park and show them. And then when our guests say, wow, this is amazing, we say, yeah, we've got that in Marshfield. That's what it's like here. And so, there is a point of pride there in the community, a sense of ownership. It's also something clearly that can be enjoyed by all ages. And Matt McLean from the CVB, who's been working with us, of course, points out that it's a real tourism draw, 15,000 or more visitors a year, $1 million a year of economic impact. So it's a real asset in that sense. Now, in addition to that, it contributes to quality of life. Now, that's a vague kind of thing, but I think you understand when you go to certain cities, they have that thing that helps attract and retain workforce and families. It's an exciting place to live. People want to be there. And if there's anything that a town our size needs to pay attention to, it's retaining its talent, its young people, and generating people who want to live here. We've got a great town, and I think this clearly would be a contributor to that aspect of our city. And of course, the other thing, it differentiates our city. I mean, this is a one-of-a-kind place, as you well know, and it showcases the creative culture. It invites creative people. How many of you have companies or jobs where you say, I like to have in the mix somebody who's kind of creative, whether it's on the design side at a company or something like that. You need somebody who's thinking of things creatively as well. And so this sends a great message about the city and gets that type type of people to also want to live here. Finally, where I say plus, I want to say plus, you get a committee who is excited about this, has connections and skills here. The people who have been working on this plan with us have experience that span the arts, fundraising, city planning, urban design, landscape architecture, engineering, and tourism. So we recognize these are all factors that we need to bring into the mix if we're going to have a successful project committee and get something going here. And the second plus is we've already lined up funding to pay for the $15,000 to $20,000 of design fees for a first-rate, award-winning firm that has got some experience with this type of specialty location. And if you've been to Jurassic Park, I keep saying that if you've been, when you go to Jurassic Park, you understand the reason people come back again and again is that every time the experience is a little different. There's something vibrant and exciting. And a lot of it is Clyde's stories and so on that he tells. But there's also the kind of discovery aspect of there are always some new works that you never have seen before. They might have been there hiding in the bushes or something, but there's always something new. And so that's what we want, is some place where people will come back again and again, and it'll serve the purpose for this city. So our next step, as Josh has mentioned, will be to take this proposal to Common Council to get their blessing to proceed. Once the project receives their nod, then we'll hire an award-winning design firm to prepare the development plan, the budget estimate, all the things that have to be answered before you get the ultimate green light. And at that point, we would return to council with a more fully developed plan for final consideration. And we do understand the types of elements that need to go into the plan. Josh, for one, listed many of them in your packet for tonight's meeting, and we understand those are types of questions that, of course, have to be answered before you get the final yes. But as I said at the beginning, tonight we want your thoughts about the project and its suitability for Wildwood Park at this location. If you're agreeable, then we hope we can move it ahead to Common Council to give us, so that they can give us confidence enough to go ahead and spend the $15,000 to $20,000 for initial design fees. We will not spend $15,000 or $20,000 of donor money if, council says you're barking up the wrong tree. We have to have some indication that it's safe to proceed in developing a plan for that location. And of course, plans like this are sort of site specific. So that's why we really can't just say, in theory, if there was something someplace in Marshfield. No, we need to have a concept that if we come up with something acceptable, this place would be acceptable for it. So that's the kind of thing we'd like you to be thinking about. And as a first step to we see this as a first step to putting legs under the project and moving ahead then to see if the private funding can be raised and the final plan developed that's satisfactory to everybody and can gain approval. I'll close now by just saying, we think this is a win-win-win idea. It's a great idea for city residents and visitors alike. It's great for local quality of life and the economy. And it's a great way to honor and carry forward the legacy of Clyde Winia. So thank you. I'll close, and I'd love to hear your questions, comments, suggestions, and engage in conversation with you. Thanks.
Anyone have questions for Mark or comments?
I have some comment. First of all, tremendous idea. I mean, when you say win-win-win, I 100% agree. I love the thought of bringing this to Marshfield. Family, when we have family come to town, I have customers that come to town for my work. We take them to Jurassic Park and they're amazed. And the only thing that I thought is the proposed location that you have for it. Isn't that the area where they have the Maple Fest? That's one area where all the vendors are set up in that area.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And Matt McLean has been meeting with us throughout. Matt from the CVB, and of course he runs Maple Fest. So he would be very protective of that. He said, don't worry about it. This will be fine. And in fact, that big red area in total, Josh did kind of the mapping, and it's something like twice as big as the current Jurassic Park, maybe, even slightly more than twice as big. So there would be, wiggle room, move it around and see. On our committee, we love, there's a certain number of creatives, and we love talking about ideas and things that it could be. And Randy Luth has said, don't get too locked in too early, because you want to hire an award-winning firm that's done some knock your socks off designs elsewhere. See what they come up with, particularly after they've done a site visit at Jurassic Park and hearing Clyde talk.
Was there any thought of maybe putting it like in a wooded area without a trail or something? 'Cause I think that would be really cool to see all these sculptures in the wooded area. But what you had mentioned though with the sun or some of the way it takes effect on the steel and stuff I didn't know if that would be a factor of being it in the woods or.
Clyde, we approached Clyde with that idea initially, and that's what Anne Marie was initially thinking out in the wooded area, how cool it would be. There are two things about it. One, Clyde said, no, the sculptures will turn black. And then when you think about it, there is also, there might be some security or vandalism issues there if they're just all over. And it's not as much of a destination, I think, for out-of-towners. But no, I mean, that's a good thought. But those are the reasons that we circle back to say, no, we probably need to keep it someplace, cohesively.
Mr. Pinker.
Now, I'm inferring that a large part of Clyde's collection will be moved from his place to the park. Am I right or wrong?
That is right. And let me just say, particularly because we have video viewers here, we are trying to put this in place so that when they want to hang up their tour hats, their tour guide hats, and stop doing Jurassic Park, it will have a place to be. Right now, they're not planning on doing that. I guess nobody who's enjoying themselves as much as Clyde and Nancy want to do that.
How many would there be all total?
I don't have a count on it, because you go up to Jurassic Park and there are all sorts of big pieces as well as medium and small. The small ones tend to be his for sale stock, things that he's selling. So I'm sorry, I can't answer that at this point, but it's substantially all of the collection. We did talk to Clyde and Nancy, and they've been family friends of mine for forever, over 60 years. And I said, okay, do your kids have any proprietary ownership well, how do they feel about this? Is this their legacy? And they said, no. We don't want this to be on the back of the kids. They're not interested in running Jurassic Park or owning Jurassic Park or anything like that.
This really seems to be a great idea. At some point in the future, we're going to be saving a unique area resource.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly there is the tourism attraction, taking it from town of McMillan to us, puts it in a highly visible location to which more people may actually be able to enjoy that. The one point about which I am concerned is who is bringing this forth. And the reason I'm asking that is the particular statute is very specific about who shall bring this forth to the commission. And it specifies the council or other public body or officer of the city having final authority thereon. So if it's coming from a group of citizens, that doesn't fit the particular statute. If it's coming from someone on the Common Council who hasn't been named yet, that's a different story. And if there's an officer of the city, such as the mayor who's bringing this forth, then its potential be accepted. I think, in my mind, in concept, this is great. But if you want to play this by the book, who is the presenter?
I think that's an excellent question, and we don't have an answer for that. We started calling ourselves because we needed a moniker, Friends of Jurassic Park, but we're not organized as a legal entity, nor does the statute, as you've read it, allow that to come forth in that way. But Clyde understands, and I think Josh should correct me if I'm wrong, but basically that the property, the statues, the material would be donated to the city. And because it would be donated to the city and it would be on city property, it's a city thing. But the question is, can we, like with Vandahay Waters or the Friends of the Trails, can we make some public-private stuff happen so that we can get the fundraising and enthusiasm of a committee to move it forward? A library, I don't know, for the library, if you had a sort of citizens committee, many committees, a lot of input there, a lot of input.
And I don't think that'll be a problem to find a sponsor on the city council or in city government.
Yeah. But those are exactly the types of, city ways that I don't know about, and probably most of our committee don't have direct experience with that.
Gosh.
Well, and ultimately, the city staff has been involved with this, as we have been involved in most of these 6223 projects that have come forward. They haven't been necessarily sponsored by an alderperson or others. It just, and I'd have to reread that statute and what the intent is. But I think, I've been involved in the group since day one, helped kind of evolve the group. Mark is here to present it as part of this, grassroots effort, because we felt that it was most appropriate to go through that process.
And Justin Casperson has been meeting with us once he got through his big rough area this summer.
Yeah, so I'd have to look at that bill to see exactly what the intent is of that. I don't think it precludes a group bringing this forward like this, but we can double check with our attorney before we finalize it.
Do you have a particular way in mind, anybody, that you'd like to see it form up in terms of moving forward? Marshfield's got kind of a good, the past decade, there have been a number of great improvements based, whether it's ball fields or other things, where public-private efforts made good things happen here. Any suggestions for us on that?
Well, two things come to mind. First, in terms of a report to the council, we could say it's the consensus of the body that this should go forward. That's not really saying yes or no. It's not providing a specific vote, but it is a report. The other thing that comes to mind would be to I'm trying to figure out how to word this right. Report positively on this send it forth to the council after we receive verification that this is being pushed forth by the Citizens Committee in cooperation with the Park Department, so that we get a city agency in there.
Okay. Well, and last week we did this same dog and pony show to the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Committee, and they voted unanimously to recommend it, I think was their words. So yeah, what you say is true.
Okay, so I'm going to make the assumption that Parks and Rec has approved this, and that approval is sending it forward. So do we need a motion to send this forth to the council, or can we send it forth?
Yeah, and in the past, how we've treated these, we have not had a motion by the plan commission. It's basically a review and consideration. So any feedback that there is basically gets taken from the minutes to the council before final action. And again, even at this juncture, staff, I guess we had talked about whether it was the appropriate time to bring it to plan commission, but we did want the blessing, or at least the plan commission's understanding of this project, because the way the statute reads, it's before final action. Well, we're not deciding where the statues go at this juncture. We're basically saying, at some point, we would like to put statues in this location. Is that a reasonable location? When it gets to the final step and we have a design and we know where the statues go, that will be brought back to the plan commission. So I think ultimately, to answer your question, we wouldn't ask for a motion at this level. We're just basically asking for any feedback and any commentary on the proposal.
Okay, so since we really don't have a firm proposal, firm design, my suggestion would be that it's, I hope I'm not stepping out of line here, but the consensus of the commissioners present that this is a good idea and the city should aid it to go forward.
And I think the appropriate place to present that to the council would be reports from committees, boards, and whatever the other three things there, which nobody ever comments what comes out of a committee.
Rarely.
Or a commission or a board, but I think that that could be commented on at that time to say that this has come before the plan commission and we think it's a great idea and we'd like to see it move forward.
I think the concept should be the point that's being made.
We would be greatly appreciative of that attitude reflected in your minutes, just about consensus of feeling
And
for it.
from the head nodding I've seen during the presentation, I think that we're all in agreement. It's a great concept.
Terrific. And if you have any questions, feel free to call me. I'm in the book under my wife's name, or call Josh Miller or Matt McLean, and you can get in touch with us.
Great. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Okay, item number 6 is an update on the Plan Commission review section of the 2022 City of Marshfield fee schedule presented by John.
Thank you. It's that time of year. We haven't actually come to plan commission. I don't know if I recall too often when we do a fee schedule because we haven't changed them very much. But going back, looking back at the records, I found some old applications back from 2008. Our rezoning requests were still $250 plus $10 an acre. We got rid of that $10 an acre, but we wanted to simplify the fee schedule. So it has remained $250 per application. And looking at other nearby communities, Emmett did a lot of research to see what other communities are charging. And that's pretty low, I think, when compared to other nearby communities. We also looked at map amendments or text amendments and conditional use permit applications. And they were all pretty much kind of on the low end. And we found that between $300 and $350 is pretty much kind of the average that we'd be looking at. These do take considerable staff time. We also have to publish hearing notices and send out mailings. So there is a cost to the city that we generally don't break even on these, even at $300, but we want to make sure people have due process and able to do a rezoning and without it breaking the bank. So what we're proposing to do is changing the conditional use permits, the code amendments, rezoning and map amendments, campus master plan review, and separating out of the planned unit development GDP and planned unit development SIP, because those are more intensive projects. They take a lot more time, and bumping those up from $250 to $300. And then I did list comprehensive plan text amendment. We do have those at $400. We're not proposing a change. Those are more intensive, even beyond the other applications. But we don't get a whole lot of those. A lot of those are staff initiated. So how this process works is we work through with other departments. Somehow our department got the lead on this fee schedule for the whole city. And we basically send out an email, get feedback from other departments on what the fees should be. And we're taking these to the Plan Commission because you guys, these are applications that come to you. And we will be going to the Finance Budget Personnel Committee next, once we have the other fees from the rest of our department. That would go to Finance Budget Personnel only. So we have some other building permit changes, but the Plan Commission doesn't really weigh in on those. So after that, it would go to council for final resolution. So we'll be making some other changes. I believe other departments have proposed some changes too. So the fee schedule is probably about a 9 or 10 page document that covers basically all the fees that are charged in the city for primarily for applications or licenses or permits. I don't believe it covers like the police department fines and things like that. It'd be a much longer document probably. But they have their own thing, but we've worked hard to try to put this in a consolidated area. So when people like contractors or residents want to say, hey, what am I going to be charged for a building permit? They can go to one place and look it up. We found that other communities don't have this information readily available. So we want to be able to provide that in one consolidated place. So at this point, we're just looking for, if you want to go to the next slide. Really, these are the proposed changes to the fee schedule, really bumping up all the stated items from $250 to $300. And again, it's a pretty modest increase compared to what it could be and what it actually costs to do those things. Campus master plan review. Some of these are relatively new. Campus master plan review, we didn't even have a campus master plan until 2013. And comprehensive plan amendment, I don't even think we had a fee until 2020. So, but be happy to get any feedback, but essentially we're recommending approval of the proposed changes and directing staff to prepare a resolution for council consideration.
Mr. Banker, you have a question?
Okay, taking a look at those, if you take Marshfield, Stevens Point, Wausau, and Wisconsin Rapids, the average of those comes out to be 300. If you take 10 of those and eliminate the outliers at Clover and Merrill, you're coming up with an average of about 360, and your median cost is in the neighborhood of about 375. So the 300, at least for the immediately comparables and neighbors, certainly is not unreasonable. Now, I do have a question, and this is about campus master plan. I know the submitter puts in a lot of work on that. How much work does the staff put in? And I'm looking strictly because that's a huge, generally is a huge document.
Yeah, that's a great question. It can be significant. I think it depends on the project. So for one example, the airport master plan, it's a city-owned property, so staff was heavily involved in that. We did pretty much the thing from beginning to end because that's city-owned. Other ones, they've had to hire consultants, but there's still a lot of, lack of a better word, hand-holding or term, because they want to be, you have to navigate through what is required, what is necessary, what's the minimum standards that we have to have in this plan. I know when the clinic did theirs back in 2019, as they were working on it, I think myself and 2 other staff members spent a morning with them going through the process with their consultants, so they knew how to navigate that. And it's not overly tricky, but it's like basically like creating their own little zoning code. So it can be quite a bit, but now that we have most of our campus districts have plans in place, the updates shouldn't be that significant.
I'll make this suggestion that items 1, 2, and 3 be set at $300. With campus master plan review with the original plan at 500, reviews at 300, and then 6, 7, 8, 9 be moved up to $500. And I'm looking at that based upon the potential for a large quantity of work by staff.
Could you repeat the last, so I got the first part, so campus plan review would be 500, original.
For the original 300 for review,
300 for review, and then the planned unit development ones?
then 6, 7, 8, and 9, move those all up to 500.
Is there any further discussion on that idea or anything on the other?
Josh, is Mr. Pinker's suggestion would that be more reflective of the staff time involved?
It would, yeah. I mean, without a doubt, I think you could, in some of these cases, it depends on the project. You know, in some of these cases, you could be looking at, I mean, we spend, dozens of hours in some cases working through with projects, especially like a comprehensive plan amendment, and the planned unit development, the one that we're working on with Veterans Parkway, for example. We have, week after week, there's phone calls, there's iterations, there's discussion, there's review, there's, go back to the drawing board. And those are significant projects. So yeah, I mean, it still probably won't cover it. I guess we want to find that balance of how do we collect enough revenue that makes it worthwhile, but doesn't impede somebody from going forward and applying. Now, planned unit developments are usually probably bigger developers. So, and same with campus development plans, they're bigger people, they're bigger entities like the university or the clinic. Rezonings, that could be an individual, and you don't want it to be punitive where it's like, well, you got to spend $1,000 just to see if you can rezone your property. That would be a lot.
Well, and one thing you worry about, especially with conditional use permits, is people saying, well, I'm just not going to get a permit.
Right.
Then you're chasing them down, and it's a different problem, right?
I think that's a fair number. It's one we hadn't set because, I don't know, Emmett, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but as far as the numbers go, the averages and stuff, I think it's probably higher than, Bill, you said you did the numbers looking at the averages. They're probably a little higher based on the 360 number or whatever you came up with, but.
Yeah, if you eliminate the outliers, you're going up 360 on an average. I guess if you wanted to consider Wausau and Neenah and Cudahy as outliers, then you're probably bringing that much closer to the 300. And actually, as a point of comparison, when you're looking at Eau Claire, Cudahy, certainly a considerably larger, and Neenah, considerably larger urban areas. I guess we could fit Wausau in there in terms of the amount of development they have. Not that they extend down to Rothschild, Weston, Schofield, but much more of a metro concept over there. But 300 does not seem to be outrageous. I mean, if you wanted to look at straight out at the average of the 10 that I used, make an even number 350. But I think 300 is probably quite sufficient. And looking at John's comment about conditional use permits, he's right that the higher that number goes, the greater disadvantage to the person requesting that permit. And certainly if you're looking at somebody who might be starting a small business at home, a business of one, hoping to move that forward, that could be a great disadvantage if that figure goes considerably higher than 250 or 300.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think we looked at the PUD or the planned unit development numbers as much. So I guess that'd be something. Did you have numbers?
Yeah, well, looking through the fee schedules, I did look at them. Always the comprehensive plan updates, and then the PUDs. Those are the more expensive ones. Typically, those are more expensive for the other municipalities as well.
So I like Mr. Pinker's suggestion.
Any You're not looking for a motion tonight, are you?
We would be, yeah, so
Oh.
I guess you could, I mean, I guess the motion would be based, as I understand it, would be, and we can clean it up a little bit, but, approve, okay,
I'll make the motion.
perfect.
Okay, Bill.
For the fee schedule, I move that items 1, 2, and 3 be set at $300. Item 4 be set at $500 for the initial plan, $300 for plan reviews following that. And items 6, 7, 8, and 9 be set at $500.
Point of order question. Should this be a situation where we make our initial motion and then Mr. Pinker's statement would really be an amendment to the motion?
Since there was no original motion, I think this is
Just go
fine.
straight with that?
It's actually easier for me as a minute taker.
Congratulations.
Yeah, if you guys had taken a motion and then we'd have to do an
All
amendment.
right, I'll second his motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And anyone opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. Item 7 is items for future agendas. Does anyone have anything they're looking to see? Hey, staff update.
I just want to report that we have a project oversight team convened with this West Second Street Corridor project. Mr. Penker is the Plan Commission representative. We've gone through proposals. We had interviews this week, and we hope to have a consultant selected, at least a top candidate selected next week, and hopefully plan to have it under contract and going by November.
Bill?
Yeah, we had numerous vendors submitting written proposals. I think they were all quite interesting to read, a variety of approaches that were being presented. Looking at the in-person presentations, again, interesting approaches, and I think covered, at least with 3 interviews, covering a very small spectrum, but they all had different approaches, all unique approaches. I'm quite satisfied with the way our review went for both the written proposals and the in-person presentation.
Okay, anything else? Okay, motion to adjourn? Okay, we have a motion from Chris. And a second from John. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.